Hello, everybody. This is Nick Newman with the Conscienticon, where we share practical, spiritual, occult wisdom. And in today's episode, we're going to be talking about the gateway tapes. If you have ever wanted to maybe send a message without your cell phone, without a computer, with your thoughts alone to another person, miles and miles away, or if you've ever wanted to see an area that you can't physically get into, and you'd like to see what it looks like inside that area. Or you'd like to, I don't know, maybe kill someone with the power of your mind alone. Well, maybe the gateway tapes are a useful tool, or maybe they're not. Let's get into that. So luckily for you scamps out there trying to do all that cool stuff like psychokinesis and telepathy, there happens to be a real project that existed out in the world that the United States government funded. That was a very small group of individuals who spent about 9 years trying their very best to discern whether it was probable or not for us to be able to use psychic phenomenon in order to find things that are missing, find people that are hiding, destroy things with their mind alone, or actually be able to tell the future. The Stargate project was a secret U.S. Army unit established in 1978, formed to study psychic phenomenon such as remote viewing, precognition, telepathy, and psychokinetics. Out of all the things you would get to test being in the military, this has got to be one of the most righteous things you could participate in. The project was overseen until 1987 by Lieutenant Frederick Holmes Atwater, an aide and psychic headhunter to Major General Albert Stubblebine, who later became president of the Monroe Institute, which is an institute about hypnosis and meditation, and you can actually check out their website yourself. But I'm such a sweetheart, I put it in the link below. But imagine having the title of psychic headhunter. That's pretty savage, and I wonder if he really ever found anybody. We probably will never know. So supposedly what got this started was the Russians in the 70s started telling everybody that they had figured out some psychotronic stuff. They had been doing psychotronic research, and that they had abilities and powers that would land with about 65% accuracy. 65% more accurate than someone randomly making stuff up with their mind. Pretty savage. But did we have any evidence to support these claims? No, but why risk it? Which is why we had to launch our own American research team. And some of you may have heard of this team based on the movie and the book, The Men Who Stare at Goats, which I hear is basically a documentary. Now let's get right into the content itself. Because of the Freedom of Information Act, we have access to these once top secret files. And one of the files that is shared, which is linked below as well, because I'm such a sweetheart, is titled Analysis and Assessment of Gateway Process. Now, this document is probably one of the spookiest things I've ever seen, in that it has a lot of neuroscientific anatomy backing it up. It's talking about components of the human brain connecting to other components of the human brain and using frequencies in order to transmit data from each component, and how you and I can exploit the patterns in which these frequencies fire and exchange information between different hemispheres or components of the brain in order to change conscious experience. What seems to have broken through to the mainstream here are the gateway tapes, which to me are hypnosis tapes. You can check out these tapes on YouTube, but I'm actually going to play a little bit of a sample for you right here so you get the vibe of what's going on.
This is the exercise for your own development process designed by you. You should be hearing my voice in your right ear. Remember the purpose, your purpose for this exercise, and begin your pre-preparation process now. First, your energy conversion box. Second, your resonant tuning. Third, your resonant energy balloon. Fourth, the affirmation beginning, I am more than my physical body. And fifth, move on to focus 10, the 10 state.
The tape you just heard uses binaural beats in the sense that one side or one ear is getting one frequency of beats while the other ear is getting another frequency of beats. And the idea is, it's not just an idea, it's actually true, that your brain, the hemispheres of your brain, which take in this data, actually harmonize and then create a middle frequency or an averaged frequency between the two set frequencies. And this averaging of the frequency allows the hemispheres of the brain to coordinate in such a way as to allow you to experience transcendental states. The CIA report says exactly a state of consciousness defined when the EEG patterns of both hemispheres are simultaneously equal in amplitude and frequency. Luckily for us, however, it is common scientific knowledge now that these frequencies actually change our conscious state.
The frequency of binaural beats that appears to bring about improved cognitive functioning at the level of memory, improved reaction times, and improved verbal recall seems to be 40 hertz. Now, is it exactly 40 hertz? We don't know. But if one wants to look up a great reference on this, the reference Colzato, Colzato et al., 2017, describes, and here I'm quoting, so this is a direct quote, the present findings are in line with those of a recent study which also found faster reaction times in participants that listen to binaural beats at 40 hertz. And you can find many examples of this in the literature where binaural beats of about 40 hertz, or exactly 40 hertz in some cases, somehow brought the brain into a state that made it optimal for learning, for memory, and for certain types of recall, including verbal recall, math learning, etc.
Certain frequencies can allow us to relax, and certain frequencies allow us to become more aroused. And on top of that, specific frequencies also allow us to lock in focus or to get into flow states depending on the ranges of all these frequencies. It is scientifically proven that this stuff works. What is not scientifically proven is that these conscious states of transcendental awareness or transcendental consciousness actually give you any new information that you can actually use to survive or predict things with any sort of major accuracy whatsoever, or to actually share information with anybody else across space-time. None of that is proven. However, human beings perform far better than chance at experiments like precognition and remote viewing. There is, or at least there seems to be, some sort of edge that human beings have in their cognitive abilities, and it just might allude to a possibility that we are actually downloading information from some external source or downloading information from source. Who knows? One of the more spooky sections of this paper talks about using components of the brain and matching frequencies to that component in order to change conscious awareness or change the data that is given to components of your psyche or your consciousness, okay? For example, we know that the human brain has a section called the homunculus. The homunculus is a section of your brain that is directly mapped out to all of your physical sensations. It is what we would call maybe an analog map of your feelings, your sense of your body and where that body is in space-time. For example, if you touch one part of the homunculus, you might feel something on your fingertip. If you touch another part of the homunculus, it might make you think that there's something going on your feet. And different regions of the homunculus are different sizes that are correlated to the density of the neurons in that part of your body. And we have a cute little map that represents the density or the sensitivity of your body on those parts. The tongue is an extremely complex thing. So of course it is got a very large density of neurons there. And the homunculus maps this out. Now, what is funky about the paper is that it talks about the ability of your brain to talk to itself to reroute the sensations of the homunculus. And this might be why people are feeling as if they are separated from their body, as though they are elevated out, as though they are able to actually leave their physical form. And the idea, or at least what I'm seeing, is that the tape has a form of hypnosis placed in it. And this hypnosis is convincing one part of your brain to send signals to the homunculus, or this map, and telling it to perceive new sensory signals. So through hypnosis, we are able to send signals to components of our brains that tell us what kind of things we want to experience. And you can help define that if you wish. You can help define what that even means, okay? Because what it sounds like is that the programming that is running within the hardware of our skulls is able to transcend the hardware of the skull. And that is kind of a fascinating and funky thing to think about. So our final takeaways before you get too deep into the gateway tapes. The first thing to know is that this is more than just meditative content. This is hypnosis content, which we know hypnosis is a very real tool that creates very real behavioral changes in people. The second takeaway, which is important to think about, is that human beings may actually share the same syntactic information, which is a fancy way of saying that the meaning that we derive from the world based on the context of everything going on and us being a part of it, the meaning or that experience, that thing has a pattern, and that pattern that elicits that experience may very well be the same from brain to brain or very similar. There are new technologies today that allow computers to analyze neurons and the way the neurons fire in order to predict language that is being formed, sentences and words that are being formed before the brain can even speak them, before you can even experience them. And the idea is that these same patterns are mapped onto other brains, and there doesn't seem to be too much of a difference in these patterns. They actually align with one another. So the way that I form my words in my brain and the experience of how I form my words in my brain may be the very same or very, very close to the same way you experience, which could allude to all sorts of things.
So what does that actually look like? Check this out. Here are the volunteers, and the volunteers were asked to watch a movie clip without audio, and this is what the AI described. You're seeing it right there, actual stimulus, and they described, I see a girl that looks just like me get hit on her back, and then she is knocked off, end quote. The eyes saw it, the brain processed it, and the AI typed out what they were thinking. I'm still trying to figure out how that would even work.
Maybe my red is the same as your red. Maybe I taste chocolate the same way you taste chocolate. Maybe. Or maybe it's just close enough. So if this is true, certain frequencies fed to many different people may very well produce the same outcomes or the same feelings, in this case, transcendental feelings. Now, my final takeaway is both a warning and an invitation for anyone to discuss this in the comment sections below. Wouldn't it make sense that we could use specific frequencies in order to exchange information with other people or other entities at much faster rates? Maybe consciousness itself, or the thing that is consciousness, is something that holds intense amounts of compressed data. And maybe by focusing conscious awareness, as it refers to in the document, taking conscious awareness from a field or a lamp-like effect into a focused, more laser-like effect, maybe channeling consciousness in this way is a way of transmitting data faster than the speed of light. And if that is true, could we be programmed by frequencies that are given to us, programmed by strange tapes that are leaked on the internet, strange bits of audio that are supposed to help you meditate? Could we be programmed or brought to other instances of reality through our conscious awareness without actually being aware? This is Nick Newman with the Conscienticon. If you like this content, please comment, like, and subscribe. And I thank the patrons so very much for continuing to help the spread of practical spiritual occult wisdom.